Has anyone ever asked you, what is Judaism? And they expect a one-sentence answer, or teach me the whole Torah standing on one foot. Really hard to do. Today people are asking, what is Chabad? Not easy to sum up such a vast philosophy in one sentence. But let's try a few approaches. Number one, if you're already an observant Jew and you've studied all parts of Torah, do you really need Chabad, or are you fine without it? One of the central mitzvahs of Torah, and a pillar upon which the entire Judaism is built, is the knowledge of God. Of course, there's faith, emunah, which is central and important. But in addition to that, there's also the need for the knowledge of God. Da es Elokei avicha v'avdehu b'lev shalim. If you know God, then you can serve Him with a whole heart. If you don't know Him, it makes it much harder, maybe even impossible, to get into serving Him with your whole heart, because you don't know who you're serving. You can't possibly know how to serve Him. So Chabad is that dimension of the Torah that informs you, educates you on who and what is God. In the need to fulfill this mitzvah of knowing God, in the entire Torah literature, there's no better source for that information than the teachings of Chabad, a study of godliness. What exactly does Chabad teach, even if you haven't studied other parts of the Torah? Chabad basically says what the Baal Shem Tov said, and that is that we must serve God wholeheartedly. It's not enough to simply be obedient, to simply follow the steps, although they're crucial, to keep Shabbat kosher, to celebrate the holidays, to use the mikveh when you're married. Obviously, those are the building blocks. Those are the indispensable performance or carrying out of God's will in this world. But the Baal Shem Tov said that your intentions, your feelings, your kavanah is also important, because it's a relationship. All of Judaism is a relationship between God and His people. In a relationship, if you behave properly, that's wonderful, but it's got to be more personal than that. How do you make it more personal? So the Baal Shem Tov said, Rachmano libo boi, God wants you in this relationship, not just your performance, not just your actions. But how do you get there? So there's the approach that says if you find an inspired individual who is wholeheartedly serving God, enthusiastically, intensely, emotionally, and so on, that can inspire you and awaken feelings for God by imitation, osmosis. It's contagious. If you hang around someone who is truly an inspired soul, who passionately serves God, you're going to catch a little bit of that fire, and you too will become inspired. The Habad approach to what the Baal Shem Tov was saying is that in order to inspire the heart, you have to go in through the head. When you know God, when you get to know Him, you get to love Him. The more you know, the more there is to love. The more you understand His greatness and His closeness, the more there is to love, and that love will be much more consistent, much deeper. It'll be wholehearted. So Chabad means serve God with your whole heart by getting to know Him. So on the one hand, you can call it a philosophy. It's an intellectual study, chachma, bina, das. But the intention is to involve the heart with its emotions, love and awe and compassion, so that we serve God by doing the mitzvah, but wholeheartedly, with a passion, with a commitment, with a devotion, making it personal. So what are some of the things that the heart should be feeling in serving God? One of the things is that we should find godliness more compelling than our physical existence, because we have a distorted perception of reality. We think the physical is real, and everything godly or intangible is questionable, not quite as real. But if God created the world, then what's real? Creator or the creation? How can the creation be more real than its creator? So to correct that misconception, we have the teachings of Hasidus that helps make God more real than the physical. Actually, in modern times, we have science that kind of demonstrates this point. Look at a piece of wood. What are you seeing? Put that piece of wood under the microscope. Now what are you seeing? So what's more real, what we see or what we don't see? So we now know as a fact, as a scientific fact, that the intangible is more real than the tangible. And that what we see with our eyes is merely a congealed version of what you cannot see. So, how do we get to where we can dismiss our dependency on material things, on physical things, and so on, and really live the ideal, meaning what we believe and what we know and what is intangible is more real to us than the physical? Practically speaking, can we serve God when we have nothing to eat? Can we serve God when things are tough? When we're in pain, can we still be good? One of the ways in which the Rebbe turned this kind of mysterious, elusive pursuit into a very practical thing. He asked his chassidim, young couples, to go out to a city and devote their lives to serving the community there, increasing the Jewish awareness, making Jewish education available, Jewish practice, etc., known as a Habad House. And there's no guarantee that there's going to be any money. In the early years, there was no kosher food available. So financially, physically, materially, you're on your own. Either you'll have or you won't have, but you will fulfill your mission. Now we put into practice, in action, the idea that our ideals are more real than our needs. Another thing that we pursue in the service of God, and that is loving your fellow Jew. Ahavas Yisrael. V'ahavta l'reacha kamecha. Love your fellow Jew as yourself. This is a cardinal principle in Torah, in Judaism. How do we do that? Of course, by studying the nature of the Jewish soul and the godly soul that we have, and the latent, sometimes latent, godliness in every Jew, even if we don't see it on the surface and so on. That's all correct. How do you put it into action? Rebbe said, become a shliach, open a Habad House, devote yourself to the needs of other people, and your love and commitment to your fellow Jew will grow, will expand, will deepen, and you will have this love of a fellow Jew that we're all hoping for, and we all know we should have, but don't know how to get there. If you've been following the story of the attack on the Habad House in Poway, and you've heard the rabbi speak, 34 years he devoted to the service of his fellow Jew. If we had to identify one Jew in Poway who benefited most from this shlichus, it's the rabbi himself. What becomes of a person who dedicates their day and night for 35 years or 34 years to helping others? What does this do to you? What kind of strength does that give you? What kind of depth of feeling does that develop? How does that affect your mind and your heart? We are told that by dedicating ourselves to others, our mind, our understanding, our comprehension of godly subjects, and our heart, our feelings, our emotions, our emotional responses to godly things are increased 1,000-fold. That's a pretty sweet deal. So what is Chabad? You know about a Chabad house. A Chabad house is the actualization, putting into practice the teachings of Chabad. And the teachings of Chabad is that there's only one God, He is real, everything else is created, everything else is commentary. Make that real, dedicate your life to a community, and you don't know where the money's going to come from or whether it'll ever come. And that's okay with you because your purpose and your mission in life is more important than your needs. Your devotion to your fellow Jew is no longer a theory, it's no longer a song or a poem or a sentiment. It becomes an actual fact of life. I'm here for others, not for myself. So get to know Chabad, study Chabad, practice Chabad, support Chabad. It's the future.